Coming up next for our final keynote, we have Jonnie Haddon, who will be talking about 3 blueprints for a trusted democracy. So Jonnie also was kind enough to come to our morning workshop yesterday, so he's also been doing his research about data governance specifically, getting a bit clued up about who Govis is and what we're interested in. So hopefully he can drop a few data governance references by now. He had a whole morning of it yesterday. But if not, I'm sure it'll still be good. Jonnie is a globally recognised GovTech leader based here in Wellington at Creative HQ. He's set up the New Zealand GovTech Accelerator, which has been mentioned once or twice today already, I think, and he has been running it for the last 7 years. He's also worked on a number of other GovTech products and events. Through this mahi, he has worked with 55 of New Zealand's most innovative government projects from 20-plus government organisations. Internationally, he is a member of the Global GovTech Alliance and is on the Workbank's working group on GovTech Innovation Labs. He has also worked on international innovation initiatives and been a conference speaker and panel member, most notably at Govis 2024, Trust Innovate. Jonnie is committed to helping governments find better ways of meeting citizens' needs, which will create a public service that is more trusted, transparent, and inclusive. So thanks, Jonnie. And if we're falling asleep, you can tell us to get up or do whatever you want. We're in your hands.
Yeah. End of a long day.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone. Great to be here. Kia ora koutou. Called Jonnie Haddon, Takuingway, as they said. Have you ever been freedom camping? Yes. Yeah, some freedom camping. Found a nice bit of grass somewhere, pitched your tent. Yeah. Have you ever done it on the lawn of Parliament? No? Any takers? No. Wrong crowd. Look, I wasn't there either, just to set the record straight. But look, that was fueled by a huge distrust of government. And that's what resulted. We've probably all had situations where we found our trust in government eroded. I'll give you a very quick little story about a situation that I had once. I was coming home from some time away and I was in business class lounge. I was feeling pretty good. I'm a public servant, I can't afford business class. I was put up because they lost my bags on the way over. But look, long story short, someone said, I want to come and check your bag, Mr. Haddon, there seems to be something wrong. Anyway, long story short, I was led away, I was questioned, I was pretty annoyed because I just missed my business class flight. And then next thing I know, I was in handcuffs. And then I was in shackles. And then I was led through an airport with lots of eyes looking at me, put in a van, taken to a police department, questioned, then held in the cells for 2 days before being driven in another van out through the middle of nowhere following road signs that said prison. When I got there, thankfully, there was a courtroom. I went in, waited to see the judge. Judge went home, couldn't be bothered. I then was told, you've got your passport, sweet, give us that and you can go. So fine, did that, went, and then it took a month to get back. And as you could imagine, this was pretty, very untransparent, this process. I was being, pulled from pillar to post, and the MFAT were incredible, just shout out there. But when I got home eventually, I just wanted to hug a New Zealand customs officer because, the trust that they represented. Now, admittedly, that's a little bit of a unique situation, but it was hugely eroding of the trust in that country's democracy. And I won't say who, but fair to say they don't have much of it. And that's what I really want to talk to you about today, is about trust and all of the things that go along with it. So, like probably all of you, I wear lots of different hats. And I am the GM of Government Innovation at Creative HQ, which is something I really, really enjoy. Creative HQ is a little local government entity that is helping startups and government agencies to sort of innovate, use new technology and do some cool things. I did set up and run the GovTech Accelerator and have been doing that for a number of years. Something I also love, getting to work with amazing projects. But I do wear other hats. The World Bank and Global GovTech Alliance were mentioned. But I also do some personal things on the side. Really, this idea of public purpose technology is my passion and really what I do and what I want to be a part of. Here's a little bit about Creative HQ for those who don't know about that. But yes, I have I really dedicated my career, I guess, to pushing and pulling public sector projects and the public service to be better. We've been talking a lot about trust in the public service, or trust to innovate, and maybe it was my dyslexia, but I think others have taken this approach too. But really, I read that as innovate for trust. What I want to do to you today is talk about why that's so important. I think we probably all know, but it's so important for a functioning democracy, isn't it? Without trust, we lose our social license to operate as big G government. And without that, it's going to be very, very difficult to tackle the upcoming challenges that are already upon us when we think of, climate change, inequality, ageing populations, housing crisis. We're going to have to be brave, we're going to have to be bold, and if we don't have trust, we end up with a whole bunch of people camping on the lawn. And it's going to actually get increasingly difficult in the age of AI, the deepfake scams, all of these things are getting increasingly complex. And I actually think that trust could be the most vital asset a government has. It's going to be the currency of governments that they're going to rely on. Don't take my word for it. The OECD says that trust in government is essential for social cohesion, economic growth, and democratic stability. Need I remind you? So, I have three sort of blueprints, I guess you could say, that I want to talk to today. These are responsiveness. We need to be responsive as a government to citizens' needs, really, and their expectations without wasting stacks of cash. We need government to be hyper-transparent while protecting personal data. And we need to be representative of society. My first one I would put in there is we need lobby reform, but I'll leave that for someone else. And look, these three things are all critical to the OECD's trust survey. I'm not sure if that got mentioned here, but there's lots of information about that online, which is really interesting reading to see where we're trending. Look, for number 1 and 2 on that, I really want to give you some practical ideas for you as an organisation and your business, unit, whatever that is, to do. And the third one is maybe a bit of a personal voting as a voting member of the public on that one. So first, responsiveness. I actually started my career at Toyota New Zealand. They're the most trusted brand in the country. As of this year, and globally right up there as well. They were the first to do a mass recall of cars, benefited. They were first there, responded to that crisis. They know about what customers want, they deliver to them. If you're buying a Toyota, you know what you're getting. They're the things that deliver and represent trust. When we respond to something that goes wrong, when we give people what they want, they do what they say they'll do, and they're not wasteful. That one didn't really apply for the Toyota analogy, but it applies for us in government 100%. When we feel that government isn't responsive, this is eroding our trust. How good is government at responding and being responsive? I think there's lots of bad press in the media. We've heard about all these big ones, right? Let's Get Wellington Moving, Light Rail, the Lake Onslow Hydro Scheme. A couple of months ago, there was that whole thing about spending $750,000 to reanalyse whether we should build some classrooms. And the public was screaming out, just bloody build the classrooms, We just need to get things done. And certainly Minister Collins was talking about that this morning. And for every big project like that, there's 100 little ones as well. The model we use for delivering public services is, I think, broken. I want to focus on digital products and services That's what I've been working on. So I can't really talk to the infrastructure play, but it's probably similar. It's easy, right? No. Look, for 9 years I have been working on those innovation projects, doing lots of very, very cool things. Last year was a little bit of a challenging year, and I found myself being like, I might do a bit of research. So I did a whole bunch of research into what makes projects, public sector projects, successful or a failure. You might have heard of this idea of innovation theatre. Yeah, this idea of sort of doing something that looks great but doesn't really result in something. And this is what often happens. We're invited to the restaurant, the menu looks good, smells good, we're promised the world, but the food never arrives. And this is sort of what we heard when we were going out doing that research. I looked at 50 different projects that have been successful and have failed, and connected with a number of senior leaders and sort of project owners from across the system. One senior leader said this. He said, there are 1,000 blooming flowers, Jonnie. 1,000 blooming flowers. Great projects that look innovative but inevitably wither and die in the fields of government bureaucracy. The resistance is high in government. And I think that's really the reason. You know, my colleagues are often dealing with startups and they are looking for capital and capital and customers. And in government, it's really a lot more complex than that. We're trying to push this resistance boulder up a bit of a mountain to overcome the political will, fear of failure, risk, slow culture, tech integrations, personnel changes. You know, all of these things make it very, very hard to change the status quo. You've got that working against you. But, fear not. I think what I found is actually there is a bit of a ceiling, and projects that are trying to push through those things inevitably die. They become one of the 1,000 or one of the 999. But what I found is that resistance does seem to reach a tipping point, a point where the momentum changes and it really starts to, build, and the value increases at that point. And what that is delivering value within the current constraints, skipping all that political resistance if you can, and just deliver value to our end users, whether that's another agency, internal customers, the public, whatever it is. If we skip all of that and just deliver something within the current political constraints, the current tech stack, the current blah, 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 just deliver something, it then builds momentum in it. People say, oh no, don't turn that off now. Now that's valuable. I won't get into the sort of people say, oh, it creates technical debt. I won't get into that now, but come and talk to me afterwards if you want to talk about that. 3 very quick examples that I'll give you. The first one is Manaaki Tairāwhiti went through a project with us, and they were working with service providers. They have something they call frontline navigators in Tairāwhiti that are out there working with members of the community. It's a joint initiative between all the social service providers. Sometimes their navigators are like, one of them is the wife of a Black Power chapter, and all these people are really embedded in the community. They have incredible knowledge of what those people who are users of social services need, but the information wasn't getting fed back to Wellington. They'd been trying to do something for years on spreadsheets and all sorts of, janky ways. In 3 months, basically identified a tool that they could build. We built it with them. They were as part of the GovTech Accelerator. They built it, and by the end of the program, it was there being used, and actual frontline navigators were using this tool, which was basically automating the insights that they were gathering in the whānau voice and sending those all the way back to decision makers in Wellington in the voice of that end user, which was the really critical thing they felt very passionate about, and is still being used today, 2 or 3, that was 2021, 3 years on. And I just texted a colleague, a friend earlier, and said, yeah, I'm still good to say this, it's still all good. They're like, yeah, we're still rolling out new features and doing stuff all based on that original version. The second one is one that Alex mentioned in the talk just after lunch as well was a dock project they worked with us on where, in 4 months, and really only a fraction of that was actually development time, they've built a tool that can solve a massive problem for anyone who's combating weeds in this country. It's a problem that costs us $50 million a year, and we've got a $4 billion liability on our books for wilding pines alone, and it does an incredible job of connecting data, of which we've got heaps, and important people who can get rid of all the weeds, and there was just this massive void in the middle, and it solves that problem. And now they've had commitment to keep the lights on for 3 years at the base level, and with a bit of funding they can really make it go pop. The third one is one we did in the Philippines with a social service provider in the Philippines, where again at the end of a very short amount of time, they were at the very start of their digital transformation journey, as they called it, and they built a little chatbot. This was a couple of years ago, pre-ChatGPT, built a little chatbot in Messenger to give social service clients in Manila a better understanding of what they needed to bring to appointments, because they were always getting turned away and it's a pretty big deal, and what they were eligible for, what benefits they were eligible for as well. Again, still working, and I actually just 2 weeks ago was delivered a T-shirt of Dotbot and a keyring from the team in Manila, who are still going strong. So, jump the gun. All right, so if government could simply deliver faster and do all of those things, we'd grow our trust. Yep, that's good. And I've been working in the GovTech Accelerator, working on lots of other people's projects. So I thought I should give it a go myself. So I found a problem that I know exists, and that is government websites. Okay, no shade. Not necessarily the fact that they are bad in and of themselves. I'm not bagging the quality so much, but the resource intensiveness of building, maintaining, managing, migrating, hosting and securing .govt.nz websites. There are 200 .govt websites in New Zealand, and many of them have lots of instances of those. When I was starting to do calculations of this, I was getting to 9 figures very, very quickly on the cost of running these websites. So together with my friend Alex from X Equals, we thought we'd run our little process, the sort of rapid prototyping process that we take our teams through, using agile, lean methodologies, open source software, to see what we could build in a day. In a day. That day was yesterday. I kid you not, yesterday. So we built a fully working, all of government content management system. This is the real deal, right? This is a mock agency called the Department of Public Purpose, and hopefully the guys in the booth will push play. I just did a quick video there. It's fully editable, click and configure content management system using open source tools, software, skins. In one day, it has more features than many government websites does. It does all the standard things that you would expect. Pages, articles, data feeds, revision history, approvals, all of those things. It has job application portal, live calendars and events. Managers can manage public consultations. It can be set up to, by default, explore or meet all of the accessibility standards. It can be fully native API accessible. And if you've read Ben Reed's book about the future of Aotearoa, this is an absolute must. I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted there. The list goes on of what the CMS can do. And we got on a roll. And we were setting up processes or features that agencies build over months in an hour. Must be a yarn, you say. Can't be. It's legit. If you want to have access to this demo site, message me on LinkedIn or talk to me afterwards. Not secure, you say? Well, it's built on Drupal using code that the Australian government built, use currently and maintain. Police use Drupal, and they get many, many security threats pinging them on the second, by the second. the White House official website uses Drupal, or at least it was built on Drupal. It can be hosted in any cloud provider or iOS sort of compliant provider you like. So there's no issues there. Seems too big to be true. Like, tech is moving very, very fast, and the things that we can do with it are moving even faster. My point is that we can be more responsive to the needs of government, and not just with websites, right? There's hundreds of projects that are farting along that aren't really delivering the value that I think they can be. And I think, as we heard from the Minister this morning, that she is putting pressure on agencies to do, and at least to try working in these types of ways. I've had people tell me that this isn't really worth doing with focusing on these little projects, because what we need is transformation, wholesale change. But for every transformation project that happens, we have 1,000 smaller projects that we just have to deliver. There's only ever a few transformation projects happening. If they want to do those things, let them do those things. But in the meantime, we've got actual things to get on with. There's endless projects we can work on. And I actually think that ultimately, as we change and adapt as a public service, that will become much more transformational if we change the way we deliver projects. And I think I'm seeing, at least from my perspective, a real change of the people who are making decisions, a cohort of people who have now, a bit more digital native, are coming up into those decision-making roles, and willing to try these things, willing to change the status quo. All right, that's my responsiveness rant over. Second thing I want to talk about, transparency. Not really a hard concept to grasp, I don't think. We all know that transparency creates trust. It's kind of an easy concept. So yeah, trust, transparency, not there. Trust is gone. If you take your car to the garage to get a waff, and you come back to this massive bill, they didn't ask you what they were going to do first. They don't tell you why, how, what it failed on, what they actually did. It's not going to work. Why do you need to know, you might ask? It's just a car. Like, it's your car. It's our government. And we need to know what they're spending their money on, what decision-making process they're using for their procurement spend. I just got told that only 2% of our procurement spend is transparent in the way it's awarded, and we all know where it goes. So, again, I wanted to see what I could do to promote trust in our democracy. At the end of last year, the time of the election, a friend and I thought we wanted to make information more accessible, around the election to see what people could do. So a friend and I got together and we built a bot using sort of OpenAI paired with Facebook Messenger. And it was a lot of fun. We had a few thousand people use it, and they were asking all sorts of questions. It was called Minister Know-It-All, and you could jump in there. We sort of took a little bit longer to build than we'd hoped, but so we only got it live, I think, a couple of days before the election, but shared it out, and yeah, there was, it's not, if the guys in the booth want to push play if they can, you could just basically ask it anything about the election. Now, with ChatGPT 4, you wouldn't have to have trained it so rigorously. We had to train it on all policies from every party, what is the election, all of those things, which was where it was a bit tricky. But it was a cool way to see engagement. Really got uptake in the universities, particularly Vic and in Canterbury. We had thousands of sort of students jumping in there asking all sorts of questions, which was pretty cool. A bit of fun. And I guess that led me to think more about that transparency idea more broadly. So last year, my research project was on projects that fail in government. Well, this year, my research project, to call it that, has been on the OIA process. It's an absolutely critical mechanism for transparency between government and the public. So this year, I've been interviewing a bunch of OIA, Official Information Request, or Official Information Act is what OIA stands for if you don't know, and getting all sorts of insights from them, and experts as well, not just like the people who are in the roles. And we've probably all heard the horror stories, 95 pages of people being returned redacted, just black pieces of paper. And opposition, there was a story a year or two ago of opposition leaked a document that they were leaked, basically to prove that the OIA request wasn't carried out, because they said, I did an OIA request, you didn't tell me this thing, here's the thing. So we hear about these stories. But you know what? I've been interviewing a whole bunch of these people, and I found that the OIA, our public servants who do this process, are absolutely incredible. Like, they are so dedicated to it, to the Act and what it stands for and all of those things. I was actually quite blown away. The commitment to it and the work that they do is actually great. I honestly, that's not to say the service is great, because the OIA has basically been around, not really that changed, in 41 years. You know what didn't exist 41 years ago? Everything, email, almost any data, none of these things existed. One agency who I was dealing with, who gets less than 1,500 OIAs a year, which puts them outside the top 10. They got 10 FTE working on this, and that's only the people who triage the things. It's not really the people who have to go out and dig through all the services. So this was a problem that I thought, I wonder if I can do something here and apply something to this. This is not going to be an easy problem, and nor is it a new problem. And it's going to start getting a lot more serious, with AI bots and things just able to spam agencies with OIA requests. The mob have been using this technique with the police for years. It's just a good waste of resource if you just ask all sorts of complicated questions. Well, that's going to get even easier to do. I guess you could see where this was. We could see where this was all going. I thought, what can we do? Now, I don't have a demo to show you, unfortunately. I don't have a demo to show you. But we are working on this, and we are making progress for something that I would love to be able to show you. And I think when we do, it will represent huge cost savings in terms of the agency's ability to deal with the OIA, because actually at the moment, I think they do a too good a job. It's so labour-intensive. But it perhaps doesn't have to be. I don't think the technology is there yet, to be honest. I don't think we can do all the things we would like to do now, but the speed in which it's going, it won't take long. So I've been talking to a number of agencies on this. I know DIA are potentially keen. So if your agency thinks this could be an opportunity, we're trying to get together a bit of a coalition of the willing, so please do come and talk to me afterwards or message me on LinkedIn or something, because love to chat. That's the bandwagon. It's not too late. Let's get on the bandwagon. There's government. There's lots of opportunity for government to utilise AI, as Catherine was talking about, and we all are welcome. All are welcome on the bandwagon. All right. How am I going? Good. Representation. Where's my notes? So we've got to see ourselves in our politicians. We've got to believe that they have our best interests at heart. If our parliament is not representative of us, we aren't really going to trust it. And again, this came from the trust survey from OECD. Bryce Edwards put it best. I'll read his quote. Yes, Parliament has become younger, browner, more female, more gay. Yet it has become significantly narrower in terms of our social, economics, occupation and social class. 37 of the 40 newly minted MPs last year 37 out of 40 come from just 5 professions. Not a teacher, tradie or travel agent in sight, right? Mostly career politicians and lawyers. If our democracy is not representative, we aren't going to, again, we'll go back to camping on the lawn probably. So I'm thinking, what can we do about this? Can we randomly select our MPs? Look under your chair, there's a nomination for you. No. So, brief story. I want to tell you about the Hartlepudlians. The Hartlepudlians are the people of Hartlepool in the UK, and they've given us a little bit of a glimpse of what random democracy, if you can call it that, would look like. In 2002, they voted a monkey in as their mayor. But, look, you might say we do that all the time with our elected officials. But no, this monkey was actually great. They were amazing. The monkey wasn't a monkey, it was a man who was a mascot for the local football team. Inside that mascot was a man named Stuart Drummond, a 27-year-old call centre worker who ran for a laugh. He ran for a laugh to promote his local team, of which he was the mascot for. And he certainly did not expect to win, but he did. In fact, this random individual who had no career aspirations of being in politics whatsoever won another 2 elections because he did such a good job. It wasn't quite randomly selecting our MPs, but it was about as close as you'll find to it. So I said I wanted to give a practical idea. Here's my practical idea. The first 2 were real-life concepts in terms of transparency and responsiveness. Hands up, this one is what you could call satire. I'm not really... anyway, let me get on with it. So, what's my idea? Why don't we today here launch a new political party? A truly representative party where members are drawn at random. A citizen jury, a jury of your peers. Introducing the Citizen Trust Party for 2026. Nominations are open. If we think that the best way to decide the fate of someone in a courtroom is a jury, why can't we also use this random selection process for what is arguably the most important job in the country, leading the country and coming up with our political agenda? The best leaders are often those who don't want to be, as they say. All right, how might this work? I don't have time to go into all the details, nor are they fully thought through. But, quick overview, right? A person could be chosen at random from the electoral list. Make sure they're not unhinged. Train them on the election, the parliamentary process, and then we'll run a wider citizen process to decide what political platform they're going to run on, based on all of the people who want to have input onto that. We'll decide on a fixed number of issues that we'll stand on, and we will completely disregard the rest, remaining strictly neutral. We'll give them access to some experts, time to study international best case examples, and obviously they'll need to write some policy. So there you go. That's how we can overcome perhaps our representation problem that I think is starting to emerge. All right, so I'm going to wrap there, right on schedule. So to build trust in government is going to take some bold and brave actions. Especially if we're going to get on top of, as I say, all of those crises that are coming down the tubes at us. But we can do this. We can make a difference, and we can be more responsive to citizens' need via a new delivery mechanism. Accelerating projects to add value within their current context. Start small and build up from there. Starting from small no longer means you're building a sort of pilot and prototype that's going to be thrown out. You can start with it and build up, because on top, within the existing tech stack, not a waste of time or effort. Use new technology and ways of delivering value, just like, via your websites. You'll just take a leaf out of the Department of Public Purpose. Content that can be accessed via API, that is required. We can do things like that, government common web platform, or really that government CMS, like I showed you, content management system that I showed you. And we can do that. That's feature rich. It's secure. It's really cost effective. It's costing cents on the dollar. 2, we can do it by increasing our transparency through access to information, through that pathway of the OAA. So join us in making a working proof of concept that is going to make some real savings. So talk to me about that. And the third one, through the better representation of everyday New Zealanders through the Citizen Trust Party. Taking donations after this to get us off the grounds. So yeah, look, hey, I'm Jonnie Haddon. Amazing. Thank you so much for sticking around at the end of a long day. And remember, vote for the Citizens Trust Party for 2026. Thank you. Ooh. Do I get out? I don't want any questions on that one.
You can choose your own questions if you want. I must just say as well, Govis certainly does not endorse any particular political party, either real or fictitious. However, someone's been handing out little lapel badges recently, which has got me worried, so we might have to look into that. Don't want to... Okay, there's nothing in the Constitution about it. Yeah. Come to the AGM. More on that later. Yeah. All right. Yeah, over to you, Bo. Questions? I'll ask them to you, shall I? Maybe that's more fun.
Sure, and then I don't have to... Yeah, then no bias comes in.
Yes. I'll just go from the top. So, someone is keen on communes. No comment there. What about this one? Is the authorising environment a barrier to responsiveness? And what would you suggest to address this in government agencies?
Yes, is the authorising environment a barrier to responsiveness? Yes, I mean, it is. We know this. I think we talked a little bit about this in the workshop yesterday. I think there is a difference now, though. I think the time is sort of ripe. We're getting put under a lot of pressure at the moment to deliver more with less. And I guess traditionally the bureaucracy that can come over top to really slow things down and not allow this to happen is sort of melting away a little bit because of these particularly financial pressures that are coming down. So I think now is the right time to sort of dive into this and try things a different way. I think there's that mandate. We're hearing it from the minister, and that's feeding down to try things. And, we might fail every now and then, but that's okay. I think this problem comes back to risk of tangent, but I won't. But it comes back to the media a little bit as well. Government is scared of doing things because they'll get dragged over the coals in the media. But if we can change the story to say, hey, actually, we failed, and it cost us, 10 grand, it's a lot better than the 10 million. But the problem is the 10 million that we lose because we failed a project 10 years later, we don't know about because, the person running it's left, the government's changed, and it just sort of fades away into the background. But really, media tells the wrong stories about projects that fail. So that's a sort of a bigger problem. But coming back to it, I think that authorising environment is got a bit easier right now. So yeah.
Great. Have you worked with any senior public service leaders? Would you want any of them along on one of your accelerators or not?
Yeah, we work with them all the time. I actually think it's often the people at the sort of top, at the boardroom or the big swivelly chairs, they often get it and want people to innovate and go faster and try these things. And often sort of the people at the coalface do as well. But really, it's people often in the middle who are reluctant to change and don't. Their career's been built on the status quo. They don't really want to disrupt it and change it. They've got great relationships with the big status quo vendors and things like that. It's not really in their best interest. But again, I think with a bit of pressure, that can change. But also seen a bit of a mindset shift, I think, certainly in the last, over the last 10 years, for trying to do more stuff, and certainly senior leaders are included in that. It's a bell curve, and we're targeting people at the front of the bell curve. There's always going to be the laggards, and even the people in the middle that we're not worried about. It's the people at the front of the bell curve that we want to sort of invite on to working in this way.
Yeah, good. And just the very last one, and we've had a few iterations of this question today already, I think, but we'll get your hot take too. Will increased use of AI in government increase trust in government, further erode trust in government, or have no impact either way?
Well, hopefully I think it could do a lot for increasing the trust in government through transparency as just one use case, but there is lots. I think the biggest thing is if we don't do anything, we're certainly not going to increase trust because everyone's going to be working in a different way, and we're going to be stuck working in the old school, we'll become less relevant. Have to, surely.
No, well, please, what am I saying? Please join me in thanking Jonnie, not welcoming.
Thanks, everyone.
Not welcoming him. Yeah.
Cool.